introduction thing on you at school with him. Sorry, he was teen. All right. So there's a couple more tests. I got to just add the numbers. And so maybe I'll get a couple minutes. So I'll let you look at your score, but I just let you look at it and kind of give you a little bit of explanation. So I'll do that right at the end of the period. Sound good? So let's go and get started, because remember what I told you. First off, we have a quiz tomorrow. Secondly, how big would you like the quiz? 3, 4 pounds? Yeah. Huh?
42 is the answer to everything. So.
I swear to you, you can trust me. My word is my bond. There'll be less than 1,000 questions. My word is my bond. You feel better about yourself now? So you have this benevolent dictator in front of you. But not only that, I'm looking at 8 or 9 questions. And then I'm going to be gone for a couple days in a week and a half or so. So I'm trying to set everything up so then we can. I do, you know, 1 or 2 days we will watch a video, but you know, have to be there. So let's go ahead and did we get to money supply? Yes, more money supply stuff. You can't have enough money supply. This look right? Did we get to this?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Let me just go back and just check how the test is going. What? Almost I see. Is that better now? Is that better? Yeah, you're gonna go so far in life. All right. So just to review, what was the first government created after the Constitution? Or I'm sorry, after the Revolutionary War? What was it called? Yeah, Confederation. The Second Continental Congress created it.
Confederation.
They wanted a republic. The Confederation Congress was the first Articles of Confederation. But they wanted a republic. And they feared what type of government? What's that? Yeah, tyranny. So if you have a more decentralized government, there'll be less chance of tyranny. That was the idea. So no strong executive. How many votes did it take to get a law passed in the Confederation Congress? How about to change it? And does anything get done? Only 2 laws really got passed, which we'll get to in just a second. And not just that. Not just that. Who carried out the laws? There was no, what do we call the branch of government that carries out the laws? Yeah, the executive. There's no executive. The thought was the states would do it. The states are like, who handled foreign affairs? States. What treaty was not enforced? Treaty of Paris. What 2 states went to war over tariff? And what could the constitutional, I'm sorry, what could the Confederation government do about 2 states going to war? Hey guys, cut it out. So they couldn't do anything. So that's a system we have. So let's get to the land was one. We'll come back to the land in just 1 second. But money supply. Everything's money supply. Does inflation help creditors or debtors? Yeah, debtors. And here's the thing. Deflation is an economic disaster. So in reality, today, creditors want really, really low inflation. Debtors want a little bit higher. Too high inflation destabilizes everything. We've never really had really high inflation in the country. So just moderate inflation freaks everybody out. I blame everything bad that happened in the late 1970s on really high inflation. But that's when it kind of got really popular. So, okay, I'm on some. So look at the situation you have this. You have all these different currencies floating around. States put out currency, cities put out currency. There's still old continentals from the Revolutionary War. There's still old colonial currency. And so all this money, no one can tax, no one can back it up. Oh, almost forgot one other quick thing. What are the instruments that government uses to borrow money? What do we call that? They issue what? Bonds. Nobody knew what anything was worth. And so, heck, people were using bonds to buy stuff, but that's kind of what dollars are. And so what happened to the value of currency? Dropped like a rock. But the few gold and silver coins, specie, went up in value. So every single time you went to buy something, it was a bargain. Bargaining, buying and selling things. How many pesos, one gold coin, and 3 pieces of New York currency. So we did not get this, right? Markets need the government to decide it. A market, and this is pre-capitalism and capitalism today, and kind of late capitalism we're in now. I meant to say, got my dates wrong. They need the government to set the money supply. If you don't know what the money is worth, the market can't function because it takes so long to get anything done. If nothing can get done, then you're just basically, you're stuck where you're at. That's one thing about today, that we just have seamless transactions, so you can do it a lot very quickly. And, that's what it said, markets can't function. So, the other big thing is, if the markets can't function, you can't plan for the future because you can't have stability today because there's too much risk. There's no way you're going to innovate today if you have no idea what tomorrow will be because it might cost too much money. It's no coincidence that once you have governments establishing the money supply, not completely to our point of view in the 1900s, but you could see it, and then better credit, more rules established, innovation took off because you could plan for the future. And once you have one bit of innovation, you have more innovation. It wasn't that they weren't really smart before. The system wasn't structured, and their thought process wasn't structured for innovation. And so everybody just drowning in debt. And if you can't plan the future, you can't pay back your debt today. Everything is just tumbling. So if you have money, you're either sitting on it, or you're just spending for minor personal needs and not investing towards the future. All this is going on. I do love these. I love these. $50, 10 shillings, $2. The currencies are, and they're all really thin paper because they're so worthless. So not a lot of them survived. And they would be used for all kinds of things. Moving on. So what we have is just a massive depression they can't get out of. Now this is still pre-capitalism, but a massive depression. And one other thing, if no one could plan for the future, no one's buying anything. There's no demand. And so if there's nobody buying anything, that's another thing that makes you less likely to invest. Why set up a business if no one's going to buy? Let alone all the problems with the money supply. So nothing is happening. Insecurities lead to this throughout history. And it almost leads to, it has led to countries falling apart. And a few more things. Revolutionary War veterans did not get paid. Currency was worthless, but they gave them bonds. With the idea being, when the government is established, you'll get your bonds repaid. So most veterans, let's say 1780, you didn't get paid, but you got a 20-year bond, meaning in 20 years it'll mature, and now our new United States government will pay it back. Has everyone got that image? But let's say it's 1785 now, and you're a desperate farmer, and let me throw out an area for no reason at all. Central Massachusetts. Prices are dropping. You have no money to pay back your debt. And you have these bonds that will mature in 15 years. And you look at the Articles of Confederation, and you look at that government. Do you think there'll be anything there to pay your bonds back? Everyone get my image there. Do you think that? I'm holding this piece of paper, and there might not be a government in 15 years. And I need money today. Huh? That might be coming. Yeah. What's that? rebel. That's coming too. That is coming. Think about if you had a little extra money. You saw these people with these bonds and they're desperate. That they'll give me these bonds penny on the dollar. 1% worth. They're desperate. What do you call somebody who tries to buy something cheap? Make a profit. Accumulated. And that's what happened. We're coming to the day. You're exactly right. What's coming? Many stole bonds at between 1% and 10% of their value. The speculators. Speculators have a little bit extra money, so they're by definition a more wealthier class, merchant class. In 1785, you would have said merchant class. Not farmers, even the big plantation owners. They have a lot of wealth, but they don't have money. They have wealth, like land and slavery. Well, now you have a bunch of speculators scooping up those bonds. And the poor farmers maybe have enough to get through a few months, but that's not enough to get through. And now they got nothing. So that sacrifice they made, you can imagine how resentful they would be, got me nothing. And now you have a bunch of speculators holding these bonds, and they want these bonds repaid. That means they want a strong central government. All of a sudden, overnight, you have these bonds concentrated in the hands of a few very wealthy merchants. A lot of them. Money is a powerful motivation. I know none of us in here are greedy, but just imagine people being greedy. And so, one more issue. They're called debtors' courts. And let's say you borrow money, either don't pay your taxes or more commonly borrow from a merchant. This is still pre-bank. You go to court. And this is a court set up by the states. These are state courts. Here's one in Virginia for a debtor's prison. And if you can't pay back your debts to a private individual, you lose your property and many times go to jail. What do you become then? A laborer. And you have to basically work for the wealthy. Now, wait a second. I want you to think about this for a second. You borrow money and you can't pay it back, so you lose everything. The state, the government takes everything away from you, gives it to the creditor, and you might go to jail. Did everyone catch that image? Think about if you're the creditor. If I am a bank and I loan you money, I'm making a business decision, Mark. That's a business decision. If I loan you money, my expectation is, or I'm hoping, you have enough money to pay me back plus interest. That's a business decision I made. And if you can't pay it back, I made a bad business decision. I screwed up. I shouldn't have loaned you. You can pay it back. But now imagine this situation. I make a bad business decision, but the government comes in, takes away everything you have, gives it to me. One. No matter what happens, I get my money back if you pay it back, or the state comes in and takes the money for me and I get it back. I can't lose. Did you catch the system? Did you call that rigged? Now, this is really important. This is really important because who runs the government? They run the government, don't they? They run the government. You know, we can talk about politics and people misuse conservative or liberal, left or right. Those things are flown about all the time now, which I think that's actually really scary. But when it comes right down to it, look at the laws they pass. Look who benefits. That's who runs government. Look who benefits. Look where the money's going. And that's where the money's going. What a great system. No matter what I do as a creditor, I win. Now, they don't want to send everybody to debtor's prison. The point is to terrify people. So they either pay it back or give up their property. And they won't really resist. And then they become low-paid laborers, which I can hire for my new farm I just got because I kicked you off the land. Catch the image of that? or in Alexander Hamilton's world, you could become a low-paid factory worker. And so that is the big deal. Who runs the system? So, for example, I mentioned Georgia. Georgia was originally set up for these debtors who had been kicked off their land and were debtors prison, and they threw them in Georgia. Australia, they talk about this in Australia all the time. It was set up for prisoners, for convicts. Almost all of them were debtors who couldn't pay back their debts. They lost everything they had and they threw them in Australia. So, who runs the government? We're not done with that theme. It's really important. So, back to this. Macroeconomics. That's kind of cool how that worked. Okay, remember economics or how societies deal with scarcity? Macro is at this. This is government or state policy to deal with scarce goods. With how we distribute goods and wealth. With scarcity. Now, it could be state, it could be federal government. Macroeconomics. Microeconomics, one particular market. Macroeconomics. Economists specialize, of course. I have a minor in economics, and my area of emphasis was macro. I just found out a lot more interest. I didn't particularly like micro. None of it really like that. My brother is an economist, and he is labor macroeconomics. And he was a professor, now he's a consultant. He retired too. But that's economics. So a lot of times they get someone who's an economist, it doesn't really mean they know macro or micro. It usually just say economics. So let's look at the macroeconomic policy of two states. And remember, they can print their own currency. Massachusetts limited the currency. They said not very much currency in circulation. That is a piece of Massachusetts currency. I love that one. And these are still floating around. That's from 1780, but it's a $7 bill. Don't you think that'd be cool? If you had a $7 bill. You notice they have a hole in it. They would punch them to say the money is no longer valid. That's all that means. Nothing. Let's get to more policy. Think about on the land. Land taxes have to be paid in specie. But in Rhode Island, not only did they not have to be paid in species, there was a wealth tax. There was a property tax. And it's progressive. The more wealth you have, the more tax you pay. So here, that didn't exist, and you can only pay in specie. Here, progressive. So they're taxing the wealthy to back up their more currency, the greater amount of currency. Now let's be clear about what that means in specie. There's not much specie going around. So who can afford to pay the land taxes? You have to be pretty wealthy. And if you can't pay back your taxes, what happens? You go to debtor's court and you lose your farm. You ever got that system? Now here's the biggie. Which one has inflation or deflation? Which one? Is Massachusetts inflation or deflation? Is it deflation? Raise your hand. Inflation, raise your hand. Who's gonna want to answer that question? If there's a limited amount of currency in circulation, that means there's not much to spend. Therefore, your money buys more. Deflation. Here, inflation. It doesn't always work that way. There can be a lot of money out there, but people aren't spending it, then you still have deflation. That's what happened, for example, in the financial crash of 2008. But anyways, generically, this is what happens. All right, got that? Macro policy, right? Cool. Why does this matter? Well, first off, history echoes, so we can use this as an example for today. And speaking of that, let's ask a question. Which state favors creditors, aka the merchant class? Which one? Massachusetts. Massachusetts. Who runs the government? And who runs the government of Massachusetts? Next question. Here's another question. This is a tougher one. Which state allows for more people to vote? Another term for the vote is called suffrage. Another one is the franchise. Franchise, think about like you own a little bit of the country with your vote. I call them all three. I say, go back to vote. Sometimes I'll say suffrage. Sometimes I say franchise and not even know I'm doing it. So I'm just so confused. The franchise right to vote. Which one allows more people to vote? Okay. Think about it. Should we vote again? This is a parliament. We'll vote. Which one allows more? Who thinks Massachusetts allows more people to vote? Who thinks Rhode Island allows more people to vote? You would be right. A tiny little group. So here's another question. Which one has more property requirements to vote? Meaning you have to have more property. More properties? Yes, no? More property? More property right here. Have to have more property. Here, almost all men could vote. And women could vote if they had property. Massachusetts down the road are going to allow women to vote if they have property. And you notice I said all men. Meaning if you have property, you could vote in Rhode Island. And Massachusetts is going to allow that. Almost every state allowed women to vote and people who were not white to vote if they had property. By 1830 or 1820, that's all going to be taken. You catch what I just said? All of it. Women will not be allowed, regardless. If you think you have a right now and think that is set in stone, you're wrong. Women should really know this. Their legal rights reduced in the 19th century dramatically. That's your revolution. You might have it right now, it can be taken away. It can be infringed, and unless you do something, it will continue to be infringed. So, big deal, really big deal. So, whomever controls the money supply controls it. That's where the power is. So people talk about all kinds of basic government. People are bickering of all kinds of things. Who's the talk show host who was kicked off? People are like going nuts about it. Jimmy Kimmel. And I'm going to talk about the position on that. And I'm not saying that's not a big deal, an issue of free speech and where you stand on it. I mean, that's an important issue. But it's the money supply. It's economics. It's, well, that's what matters. And no one talks about that. That's what matters. That's what decides how you will, go to college or go to some career afterwards. What's going to happen to your parents when they're too old to work, still alive? Or the old saying, well, it's too old to work and too young to die. What do you do? What's going to happen to you if you want to start a family? Those are the things that matter. But people talk about other stuff. Think about it for a second. Just kind of pay attention. All right, so another thing. The term conservative or liberal or left or right are just starting to come into term. These terms are misused all the time now, much to my chagrin, but they're just starting to come out. But the big thing was about voting. Who has a right to decide their government, their fate, the market, the money supply? Who has the right, AKA more suffrage? Now, these terms come from the French Revolution. So, conservative and liberal comes from that. Right is generally more conservative, left is generally more liberal, but these terms are misused all the time. So, if you hear people using this today, take it with a grain of salt. Be very skeptical of their usage of it. Doesn't mean they're wrong, doesn't mean they're right, just be skeptical. When these terms are going to be created, was it more conservative to allow for greater suffrage, or was it more liberal? We vote again? Is everyone like, oh, this been on the test? Okay, that's a good vote. Good voice, huh? By the way, I'm telling you the roots of these words now. Is conservative more likely to want more people to vote, make it easier to vote, and open up the suffrage to everybody? Or is that liberal? Who thinks it's more conservative to have greater suffrage? Who thinks it's more liberal? That, by definition, where it came from, it's less people. And right, left, that all comes from the French Revolution. And they started using the term conservative because they're worried about power, too much democracy. And it all comes from the French Revolution when they created the General Assembly. So imagine I'm in front of the assembly and you're sitting in the assembly. And the people who wanted more power in the king and hierarchy, like just a tiny group on top, the king. They sat on, if you're the assembly, this your direction, they sat on the right. And then few more rights, few more rights, few more rights. Those who wanted just at least all men kind of sat on the left, and those who wanted everybody to vote would sat on the far left. And they called themselves liberal or left. That comes from the Revolution. So those are the roots of the word today. And so that should get to one more thing. There can be people that can have some elements are kind of conservative and some elements are liberal. It's not a zero-sum game. Rarely are people both. But that's where the roots come from. All right. So let's get to this. Which state is more conservative? Massachusetts. Massachusetts is more conservative. Now, in 40 years, Rhode Island will become incredibly conservative. And there'll actually be a rebellion called the Shores Rebellion about not having the right to vote. So things can change. It's interesting how that happens. So, Shays' rebellion. Here's the big 1786, 1787. All these issues come to head then. You have Western Massachusetts. Beautiful Western Massachusetts. Okay, here. Small farmers, kind of like where King Philip's War began. And they're farmers, they're all in debt. Many of them were former soldiers. They got either this little piece of land, but mostly they got bonds. They sold to speculators. All these guys were going to debtors' court. And the problem is, if you're going to debtors' court and you see the system obviously rigged against you, who could farmers from Western Massachusetts complain to? They have no right to vote. And if they can't vote, the people who are being elected, they don't care. You're not the ones picking. The elite are picking. Hey, I got news for you. Young people in America don't vote. They don't vote near as high. They don't care. You might say, this is horrible, especially if you're planning on going to college and saying, I can't believe college expenses are so high. Tell you, you don't vote, they don't care. It's just the truth. Is that wrong? Yeah, I think so. But it doesn't change the fact. Who votes? Old folks, older. Just the way you dance with who brought you. That's the old saying. Back to this. So Shays was a former officer in the Revolutionary War, and he would create a group called the Regulators. Before the Revolutionary War, you had these farmers, laborers groups called Regulators in Western Pennsylvania, Western North Carolina. And they were going to regulate the government, meaning we're going to force them to pay attention. They wanted the government to step in and do something about the money supply. They wanted the government to step in and stop the debtors' court. They didn't want their land taken. They didn't want the big landholders controlling everything, and they had to go to them with hat in hand to beg for money. Regulation. So they revolted. So that's the revolt. They wouldn't have called it stealing, but that's real. And Oliver mentioned that, right? You said revolt, here's the revolt. And they shut down the debtors' courts. Okay, this picture, I don't know how, I think it must extend down. I must have didn't size it right, but they're throwing a judge down a hill. Always hear the guy throwing the judge. That's supposedly Shays from a newspaper. And the debtors' court shut down. So the state called the militia out. Anybody want to guess what happened? Exactly. And they marched on Springfield, they marched on other cities. This spread panic amongst the creditors and the merchant class. What are these people thinking? They have rights? How dare they? And they're talking secession. They're talking leaving. I mean, this is pretty radical stuff. So the rebellion would be put down by a combination of things. Obviously, I can't go into great detail of everything. Winter hit. Also, in Boston, the merchant class, the wealthier individuals, bought off the urban poor to be in a militia to put down the rural. And this will be very common. Heck, this happened in Roman history, almost the same exact thing. It's going to happen throughout medieval Europe, and it'll happen in the United States. And all you have to do is look at a map of how people vote in the United States now, and there is a shocking urban versus rural divide. It's wow. Is it big? It's big in Montana. It's big. Urban is generally more Democratic, rural is generally more Republican. You see it, Helena's very Democratic. You cross state lines, it's Republican. Or city limits, it's Republican. It's very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, after COVID, it became very much more Republican. The red versus blue thing came about in the election of 2000. And yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about how that came about, the whole purple, red, blue. But yeah, that's what happened. COVID, you just see it 100, just a total turn. So Shays would be part. They didn't want to make him a martyr. He would actually end his life. He would pass away in Vermont. Well, that sounded totally wrong. I'm sorry. In Vermont, but Shays would be part. But this was a massive class rebellion. There are two big rebellions before the Constitution. The biggest is obviously Bacon's Rebellion. For Bacon's Rebellion. That led to the slave codes. That led to dividing people by race. Bacon's Rebellion, you see a direct causal line between Bacon's Rebellion and racism. Also people on the test on this. And then Shays Rebellion. There'll be a couple more afterwards. The Constitution needing to be developed, the draft riots, the great upheaval, a few more. So Shays is huge. Shays, like Bacon's, is a hinge moment where everything changes. The world changes. When I mean the world, I mean the United States. We're doing American history. So, and one of the things, what could the national government do about this rebellion in Massachusetts in 1787? Did they do anything? And no power. So they already have this issue of bonds, trade issues, land issues, and now class revolt that could spread. Next time it might work. Bacon's Rebellion was the same kind of thing. So the elite panicked. Wealthy elite, I mean, absolute panic. And basically, this is supposed to be a picture of we must change the government and go to the sun, or destroy the government and go to storms. And they were very much into kind of bathroom humor in 1787. I'll just leave it at that. But here was the cry. The people think they have too many rights. There's too much democracy. And they had a term for democracy. They throw it out all the time. The elite looking at you commoners, and what do they call you? A mob. Therefore, it's mobocracy. We got to stop this trend of people thinking they can decide the fate of the country, aka the fate of my wealth. So what do we need? A stronger central government. We need a strong central government. We need it, and we need it now. And it's pretty fun. What they want is to make sure that the mob, aka you people, can't control the government. And they want barriers. Limit the effect that the mob, meaning most of the population, have on the governing elite. That's what they want. Now, when I mean mob and I say you people, let's be honest, for the most part, I mean us. Us. We don't have control. That is the goal. So, George Washington, remember, he's a speculator, is already very upset about this government. There'd be a meeting. Anybody know the name of his plantation that he got when he married an incredibly wealthy widow named Martha Custis. Have you ever heard of Mount Vernon? Yeah, he already had some people to talk about the strong central government of Mount Vernon in 1784. Well, 1786, before Shays' rebellion, there was called the Annapolis Conference in Maryland. No coincidence, Maryland, next to Washington, plantations, bondholders, debt. And their big issue was commerce, interstate and international. Interstate commerce is trade between what? Interstate is trade between states. Intrastate is in the state, interstate borders. Remember Connecticut, remember, not Connecticut, New York. So in 1787 would initiate what we call today the Constitutional Convention. So after Shays' rebellion, the Articles of Confederation freaked out. So first you have Annapolis. So they're already talking about it. 1787, the Confederation Congress said, we got to do something because Shays has made it imperative. Even people who didn't necessarily want a really strong central government knew we had to do something. So they're going to be in Philadelphia, what we call Independence Hall. Okay, this is another effort by me to be artsy. I thought I could frame it with trees. See? And that is good. Part of the deal was it was cloudy. It was cloudy. You get let in, you're in the back. And then you wait till your time is the tour. So we're just standing there waiting the tour. And the whole goal, by law, to strengthen the Articles. We got that, strengthen the Articles. What did that mean? Some kind of control over trade, maybe a weak executive, but they got 9 votes. So you have states sending people to Philadelphia, the same place where they wrote the Declaration of Independence, to strengthen the Articles. That is their mandate by law. So immediately they decided to hold secret meetings. Now, why hold secret meetings? The first reason is very logical. I think we can all agree this is a good reason. Impartiality. To not have individual groups, interest groups, whether they be farmers, plantation owners, merchants, creditors, influence. So they could say, we are meeting in secret so these groups can't pressure us. There was a real feeling that working people, when they protested in June of 1776, pushed them to independence prematurely. Even though they wanted to be independent, they thought they were pushed. Logical, right? But are they impartial? Remember the bondholders thing I talked about? Remember the speculation? Anybody want to guess the percentage of people at the Constitutional Convention that held bonds? It's about 85%. They want a strong central government to get their money back. Is that wrong? Is that corrupt? A little bit. It's really corrupt if you don't know and they meet in secret. That's the issue. There's another thing. Okay, by law, they're supposed to meet and strengthen the Articles. Everyone got that? And yet they decide to meet in secret. And then they make the decision. Let's throw out the Articles and write a brand new constitution. Everyone catch that? Throw out the government. Violating the law. Establish a government possibly benefits us writing the Constitution. Remember the bondholders. Slaveholders. What do you call that? You violate the law, meet in secret to change the government. If more than one person gets together and violates the law, that's called a conspiracy. And it's a conspiracy to commit what? And they know it. Did someone else say treason too? I didn't hear it. Yeah, treason. They thought their heads might be on a pike. Isn't it weird to think about the founding fathers worried about committing treason? You're going to be so glorified down the road. They were really scared. They were worried about it. The people knew we're creating a government to get rid of the voice, the little voice they have. people might get really mad. So, first thing, slavery came up right away. Right away. What did we do about slavery? What was the law that said 5 free states here? 1787. What was that law? Say it again. What's that? I just can't hear you. Okay, proclamation, that's the Revolutionary War law. I know we got lots of law. The land ordinance of 1785 set up the townships and sections, surveyed. You got it? Anyone have it? Northwest ordinance. Northwest ordinance. Who proposed making this all? No slave codes? How many votes again? Think how close that was. So, no, and so they knew slavery then. So right away, what do we do about slavery? What do we do about it? And guess what their decision was at the Constitutional Convention? Shut up. Nobody mentioned slavery. We'll do something at the end. Because once you start slavery, we'll get no fight until alcohol. So they did in the grand tradition of legislatures and assemblies, they deal with the hard questions at the end and not bother with it. So if you paid attention to Montana State Legislature this year, which you should have, but I get it. You didn't, you're sophomores in high school and you have all these very important things going on. That means slightly facetious. They had all these really tough issues, especially property taxes. Guess when they dealt with them? The very last couple of days. They went through 3 months and did nothing in the way to the last 2 days. That's what they always do. And what about democracy? Oh, almost got federal government supreme and no plans for democracy. I can't emphasize that enough. No plans for democracy. Are you done? Want to do another one? You got 4 short IDs done? 25 multiple choice? Not all. Huh? That's very good. All right, good. All right. I don't want to talk about today, but I think I got most of yours graded looking at them. 90, 80, 70, 60. And each short ID was worth what, 18 points. I grade them a lot. That's why I can take 1 point off. And you still get a good grade, but I can show you missed something. That's the next one. I grade harder. When I grade harder, I'll expect more each time, which you should expect. You want that. Maybe you want to admit you want it, but you do. Now, if you got below an 84, I'll give you a chance to redo a part. Or if you missed more than 7 on a short ID, I'll let you redo that short ID. Because I want people to get good essays. And I get it. First test, you get a lot of stuff thrown at you. You're not 100% sure what I want. I'll give you that opportunity. So let me hand these out. I need them right back. And one more thing, I walk when I grade, I move around, my handwriting is unique. You're just going to have to deal with it. Oh, there's 2 scores on it. So I have a score for your multiple choice, score for math. I'm sorry. Look at it real quick, and I'll give you a chance to get some of these points back. I want people to do well in that first one, and I get it. You get all this stuff thrown at you, it's always going to be a little bit more difficult.
So 83 out of what?
And some people, hey, if you fit, he's got confused. It's easy to do on the first one. I'll give you the opportunity to go back. There's a couple people who just totally blew one short ID. It happens. I want people to get it.
We get those short IDs to next week. Is everything in home? Then why is this more racing? You're supposed to put one in each file. Yes. This is one from each file. One extra. Do an extra one. I did. I don't know. I will take that honestly first.
Really well now, no.
I will take. Which one?
They give you your age time.
I got an A3, but I will take. I'll take that too.
I give you the opportunity, so let's not worry about it right now. I just want you to see your score, then I'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow. Sound good? Yeah. Yeah, baby. Bacon. Bacon rebellion. They go hand in hand.
Question four supposed to be about eligibility.
No, but you mentioned, I can't remember what term did you?
Race based, race is race.
Yeah, you have out of Vegas for college, that's like, it's like,
Okay, so I just need to do that.
yeah. Say it again. British, race, you need to come up racism here, example. I'm really bad, and I'm so bad, like get my arm at a weird angle, and I should change. It ain't gonna happen. Everyone, hand it back up. I'll give you the opportunity to go back through them. Yeah. No question. Everyone, on your way out, put it on that middle desk right there. Put it on the steps. This the I'll give you don't worry. So he's gonna do it, but I'll give you a take it up.
I think so.
You that will be great. Oh, by the way, I got the key out of place. You didn't quite visit me. You did really well. Fine. If you ride, you're fine. I care more about you. Goodbye. You're very good. Everyone did. We have almost all A's and B's. I'm pretty patient. See, they got an
I don't know what I got.
What?
Mine's not in.
I think you got like a one.
I don't think he's putting it yet.
Mine was
very
They're actually, they are great.
No. What's wrong, Eddie? I don't know if those are.
I forgot to do something.
What? I those
Not yours. Not everything is yours.
are.
Can I see Zachary Anderson?
No.
Oh, he already told me what he got though.
You think you don't just focus on fourth period? What? We're not your favorite?
I gotta be honest with you. You're sliding.
No.
You're sliding.
Who's winning?
Who's winning? Yeah. It's not really a contest.
Who moved up in the totem pole? This was live. Wait, this was in
It's this.
the
Oh,
constitutional convention.
Yeah.
who's this?
Layla, don't panic. But that's
Oh, I see what I mean.
that's in Hamilton. The constitutional convention.
We're not really talking, I just give everyone a chance to look at their score.
The constitutional convention. That's mentioned in Hamilton.
You know, I've never seen
No one
it.
else say Mason.
I've never seen it.
What?
I'm not a theater kid. I don't know why, I just, I've never watched you, you join us.
You make me.
I mean, we can try, I have other things to watch. Okay. My bad. I'm terrified, that's why we're just gonna be there for fifth, we're not March. No, we're not saying we're on the line. Yeah, but I think it's all. Technically.
Oh.
So. What's the issue about? Like that's it's not. It's not.
One's Philadelphia.
I'm trying to get different bonus questions.
What? I think I'm fine with that. It's like, I love all my, I was like, what did it design? That's good. I just like go to turn it up. It's like, oh, right, it was my drum. Then honestly, fine. I don't.
All right, struggling, it's not your dog.
I know, I think it's because I'm old. I've thought like, it's so painful.
I'll do a couple more, really quick, won't take me a couple seconds, but I have the test basically graded. And what I did is I do the short IDs first, they take the longest. And then I quick do the, you're my age, quick do the multiple choice, then I just have to combine and get into total score. So I got most of it done, I just gotta get that back, and so I think I just do a couple more, won't take, I just went through, it won't take any more than a minute or so. So I do that right at the end of the period, I'll let you look at your score, but I'm not gonna go over it. And there's still a couple who have not taken it. So not yours yet, obviously. You're welcome. This one. Let me see something really quick. Yeah.
And like it was the thing that makes you write it because it was too long. I was like, I'm so.
You're ready for it, let's do it. All right, so let's talk about the test very quickly. I'll get that back to you, I'm just gonna look at your score and then everything be available to you. Next. Does anyone have any left of the map to turn in? Did not turn in the map yesterday? Please turn that in right now. Next, would you like some more homework?
No.
Hey, let's have a quiz.
I know, I'm good.
My word is my bond. There'll be less than 1,000 questions on that quiz. It's fine. Yeah, you can trust me. You can take that to the bank. Use that as collateral. Rip the map off very carefully. Make sure your name and your height is on there and your period and all. I'm standing right here.
That's where we're flipping.
Good hand.
Yes, I would get a picture of it, cause I'm looking at it. Should I like chat it, or can I just prove I have it and then give it to you?
Show it to me, remind me,
Okay.
do the end period.
Well, we're just sending a picture on Wednesday.
Yeah, take a picture of it and not bring the map.
Because I forgot it, but I had a picture.
Look at a picture of it.
That's actually really funny.
No one wanted to.
I'm gonna take the time to take a picture, but then I'm just gonna leave it in.
It's a common mistake.
Everyone does at this time of year. All right.